Pro Group Management. Workers' comp that works for you.
Welcome to Nevada Newsmakers. On the broadcast today, Assemblywoman Alexis Hansen, a Republican from District 32, some thoughts on the legislature on an all-new Nevada Newsmakers.
A power line is more than a power line. It's maintaining the bottom line for small businesses. It's keeping the assembly line moving for our workforce. For our brightest minds, it's meeting a deadline. It's on the front line with our heroes. And on the sidelines of the biggest games. It's a direct line to our loved ones. And it's a lifeline for the most vulnerable. There's a lot on the line.
Meet Nevada Health Link, Nevada's official health insurance marketplace. Your link to savings, selection, free assistance, and name brand health insurance, where 90% of enrollees lower the cost of their monthly premium. Everyone deserves access to quality health coverage, no matter your income or family size. Visit NevadaHealthLink.com. A few minutes could save you hundreds of dollars per month.
Nevada Health Link. Our plans are made for your plans.
Your good times are at Tamarack Casino during the $150,000 Denim and Diamonds giveaways, with cash and free play drawings every Thursday and Saturday, and $30,000 in grand finale giveaways Saturday, May 31st, including a top prize of $20,000 guaranteed. Your good times are at Tamarack Casino.
Save money and take transit. Did you know you can ride the bus all day for less than what it would cost you for a gallon of gas? Plan your trip now by going to rtcwashoe.com.
This is Nevada Newsmakers with host Sam Shad, a no-holds-barred political forum. Now, from the Nevada Newsmakers broadcast headquarters, here is Sam Shad.
And back on Nevada Newsmakers, we're delighted to welcome back to the program Assemblywoman Alexis Hansen, a Republican of District 32. You're actually the first Assembly member or anybody from the legislature that has been on the program since the session. And I wanted to get from you to start with, what were the good points and what were the bad points, in your opinion, of this previous session?
Well, thank you, Sam. It's good to be here. And I'm not surprised I'm the first. We all kind of decompressed, I think, after. And it takes a good 2 weeks or more. So, 120 days. I call it 120 days of crazy. The pace is fast. There's a lot, 1,100 bills usually. And in 120 days, we maybe passed into law about close to 600, and then there's some vetoes in there. So a lot of work. This is my fourth session. I represent Assembly District 32. And I have to say that even though I'd been around the process a lot, even before I was elected, I was always interested, and my husband was an assemblyman and now he's a senator. I'd have to say I finally felt like I was getting my footing. There's a lot to digest, and I think there is a lot of institutional knowledge that you need in order to be able to navigate the system better than other times. This time, I think I love the idea of balance of powers. I mean, it's an important principle, and having a Republican governor with majority Democrat leadership in both houses helps to keep that checks and balances there. I know 87 vetoes is not something Governor Lombardo, he has said before, it's not the way to govern, but we need that check there because
is it a political stunt on the part of the Democrats? Because the governor is going to be up for re-election, and that can be used as a tool against him. Because it seems like there could have been a lot of discussions prior to the session or even during session that would have prevented that many vetoes going through.
Absolutely. I never want to speak for the Democrat majority, but yes, certainly. I don't think, I have to question, why do some of these bills even come through when we know they're going to have a lot of pushback? And so, yeah, do I think they are testing his resolve? Yes. And I think he showed that if they're going to test him, he's going to use the power that's been given to him through the executive branch to push back when needed. So I am glad that we have those checks. Now, as far as the good, that I would say is the good part, and I do have good relationships, at least I think so. I've worked really hard to be bipartisan where I can, but still be true to my principles. And I think something that we lose sight of, those of us who are there in the body, we all represent the same amount of people. There is a party that's in the majority, but I represent 74,000 people in my district, and so do all of my other colleagues, whether they're a Democrat or Republican. And so I think that it's interesting that sometimes I think the majority ignores that. They think they have the majority members sitting in seats, but yet we're representing all these Nevadans, and they want us to do our best work and to collaborate and to be transparent. Now, that's where I've had trouble. That, to me, has been the negative side of my service.
Okay, so tell me in terms of transparency, what issues do you have?
Well, the part of the legislative process that I enjoy the most is committee hearings, when we are actually vetting bills. Remember, we're there to make laws, and these laws have very serious consequences. You can go to prison. We define what is the threshold for felonies. We are dealing with laws that sometimes might infringe on your civil rights. Not to mention the amount of impact that we have on municipalities and those, whether it be rural hospitals or urban hospitals. There's a lot that we do there with tremendous impact. So to me, the bill hearing process is so important. And I've seen how it works over decades. And I have to admit, I have been discouraged to see the hearing process. Not all the committees. There are some great chairmen that are very fair and balanced. But in some committees, it's very restrictive. The presentations for the pro side of the argument will be given a certain amount of time, but then the opposition, when they have experts, will only be giving the 2 minutes that we give the general public to government in opposition.
Okay, versus how much for
say a 15-minute presentation for the proponents of the bill, and then when you have experts in the room who are in opposition, who are getting to the table and only have 2 minutes. Now, these are experts. Now, I would say the majority of the time, those of us that are the electeds on the dais, we're not the experts. We're the representatives that have been elected by the people. So when we have industry come to the table to voice their opposition, or municipalities come to the table and they only get 2 minutes, when the proponents have had a 15-minute PowerPoint presentation about the bill, it's very imbalanced, and it doesn't give the members on the dais who have to make those decisions about the bill to pass it or to not have it leave committee the proper information. The other thing that I find disturbing is we're limited in questioning. I understand we're on a timetable, but if the timetable is so important, then why did we only vote 35 bills after first House passage? By April 22nd, we'd been there since February 2nd, we only in the Assembly passed 35-ish bills. And it was because we were on a time crunch that we're in hearings. We don't have the ability to ask maybe 1 or 2 questions, and then we're cut off. Like, that's it, no more questions.
Okay, so one of the reasons, Nevada Newsmakers has been coming to session since 2003. And we used to come down starting in February all the way through the session. And we gave up on February because there was nothing getting done.
Right.
There was pointless, except one example of where I got a telephone call from a close friend who said, "You better get your butts down here. There's actually stuff going on right now." And I won't name that person, but they're sitting in the other room here. But the 120-day session is not that short if you use all of it.
Exactly. And I don't think we need a full-time legislature. So me having concerns about the pace is not because we don't have enough time, it's because we don't use the time wisely. And so, yeah, February, it's very minimal, usually Fridays, not having hearings. Now, granted, I understand people are traveling long distances to be in session, but when you sign up to run for office, you know exactly what the pay is, which isn't much. You know that you are going to be living away from home for long periods of time for a certain set of months. You signed up for this. So when we get there, we should be doing that work, and we should do it every day from the day it starts. Back to the idea that we only had like 35 bills passed on the Assembly side, there was a lot of noise made about the governor's crime bill. Oh, it failed because there was this thing at the last minute. Senator Hansen was filibustering on sine die. Not true. We can have another discussion.
Yeah, no. Actually, tell us what happened, because he got a lot of heat from people that there were other bills that could have gotten passed in that last 15 minutes.
Sure.
And others claimed that it was a filibuster. You say no.
No, I don't only say no. Also, the Nevada Independent says no, and anybody who's looked into it knows that the governor's crime bill, we voted on it in the Assembly, in the last hour or so, and it went to the printer. You can look at the history and track the bill. It went to the printer. It never got transmitted to the Senate. So it didn't make it over there, not because of a filibuster. And what happens is, let's go back to that crime bill, because I serve on judiciary, and the governor's bill was introduced on April the 7th. It didn't get a hearing until May 28th in the Senate. And it did get a very long hearing, to Senator Scheibel's credit, very long, very fair, both sides getting to present their arguments. It doesn't come over to the Assembly judiciary until June 2nd, on the very last day of the session, in the afternoon, and it's called an informational hearing. I've never heard of such a thing. So we have the governor's bill, which is late in the afternoon on that day, and then it gets amended, a 100-page amendment. How in the world is anybody expected to vet, let alone the poor staff of LCB, to be able to prepare an amendment and have everything ready for sine die at midnight? So if we want to talk about who's responsible for the governor's crime bill dying or any other legislation dying, it's all about how you schedule things. And I can tell you this, the minority party is not in charge of how you schedule what bills are going to be heard, when they're going to be heard. That is all up to leadership and chairmans.
Okay, and your thoughts on that?
The thoughts on
the fact that it's leadership and committee chairman, and they are just stacking these bills up to the end where they know that they're not going to get.
Right, and I just think it's one of those.
It's physically not possible.
It's not. And so I think, let's be honest, let's be transparent. The reason bills died at that end of the session were because of scheduling and because of either using that as the vehicle to kill a bill without really saying you killed the bill. But don't be disingenuous and say, oh, it's a filibuster in the Senate that killed the bill, because that's not what did it. The filibuster in the Senate is a whole nother hornet's nest that maybe you can have another show on. When you bring a resolution at the last minute, a Senate concurrent resolution, to change the makeup of the Legislative Commission, which for the most part had been balanced in representation.
And did you have any forewarning that was
on the
happen?
Assembly side? None whatsoever. And we're voting on that at like 11:50 p.m., 9 minutes before sine die. But the crazy part is it was still being discussed over on the Senate side. There had been a reconsideration vote, and so they were on their second vote, but it's already transmitted to the Assembly. That should have never happened. We shouldn't have had it yet. And so there was a lot of that going on, questions being had by the Senate justifiably. You want to change and give the minority even less representation on an interim committee that oversees the regulations of this state. that's a huge deal.
Okay, let's take a break and explore more of that. We'll be back with Alexis Hansen after this timeout.
The trucking industry is the most resilient link in the supply chain. And for over 90 years, the Nevada Trucking Association has been the voice for the men and women in the trucking industry. From Carson City to Washington, D.C., we advocate for policies to protect our trucking companies and keep commerce flowing. Because Nevada's and America's prosperity is tied to trucks. There's nothing without trucking.
The Nevada Builders Alliance has been protecting the interests of the construction industry for over 50 years. Our programs save members thousands of dollars every year and allow them to provide much-needed benefits to their employees. Our industry also allows Nevada to grow. If you're thinking about a career in the construction industry, reach out. And if you haven't thought of a career in construction, what are you waiting for? We are the Nevada Builders Alliance.
Pro Group Management specializes in providing industries with the necessary components to satisfy and exceed workers' comp requirements. Every business has unique needs and specific regulations. Pro Group Management stays ahead of the curve, providing up-to-date services to keep your industry in top form. Discover how we simplify your tasks, improve efficiency, and reduce expense to keep you moving in a positive direction. Pro Group Management. Workers' comp that works for you.
Like a traditional handmade basket, retail is woven into the fabric of life in Nevada. From big box to mom and pop, retail supports our communities in countless ways. Jobs for the disabled, team uniforms for kids, help for the elderly, and so much more. Retail employs over 1 in 10 workers. Retail supports Nevada, and we support retail.
RANNV.org.
This is Nevada Newsmakers.
And back on Nevada Newsmakers, we continue our conversation with Assemblywoman Alexis Hansen, Republican from District 32. You were starting to talk about the Legislative Commission. Just explain briefly the makeup of it and what it does, and why this was somewhat outrageous of what the stunt was that was tried to be pulled.
Right. So the Legislative Commission is an interim legislative body that is selected by minority and majority leadership. So you have Republicans and Democrats. I actually serve on the Legislative Commission. On the Assembly side, because we had been in the super minority last session, there was just 2 of us, but we had the opportunity. It depends. I think the existing language is like a third of. If your numbers are a third of what the legislative body, you get so many. Well, this was going to change it to, I think, a 50% threshold. So it was going to really, it was going to eliminate a senator. The Assembly wasn't going to get an extra person. So this was a big deal, because when you're dealing with the Legislative Commission, again, those are, once we pass NRS, the actual Nevada revised statutes, we are not always real specific in those statutes. That's what's left to the regulatory body, Legislative Commission, the agencies to develop regulations.
Right, the regulators.
Right. And so it's a very important oversight. And to weaken that body with representation is just so unfair. And I'm not even understanding why you would pull that at the last minute unless you were trying to get something by everybody without a lot of attention being drawn to it. And the Senate caught it, and Senator Hansen was trying to they called for the question, which you don't call for the question until you've had debate. And they finally were able to have some debate about it. And it came right up against the time frame. What we're looking into, we're getting an opinion from LCB about, did the resolution pass? Is it binding? Is it not binding? And so that's where we are with that.
All right, let's take another break and we'll be right back.
Welcome to Story County, where history meets innovation, and a pioneering spirit continues to shape our future. At the heart of the Tahoe Reno Industrial Center, we power the future with global leaders in technology and manufacturing, driving progress that reaches far beyond our county lines. From advanced manufacturing to tech innovation, Our industries are creating thousands of quality careers, fueling a vibrant economy that benefits every Nevadan. But it's more than just growth. Our community is our foundation, supporting families, empowering local initiatives, and creating a place where everyone belongs. Be part of a legacy built on bold ideas and boundless possibilities. Join us in building a brighter future right here in Story County. Story County, helping build Nevada's future.
As you know, Reno is booming. Toll's development company is helping it grow with insightful design and development, building community with every project, adding beauty, adding excitement, emphasizing our shared humanity. Reno is becoming bigger. Toll's development is helping it become better, more livable, more enjoyable. To learn more, go to tollsdevelopment.com. tollsdevelopment.com.
All hail the $200,000 Cash is King giveaways at Carson Valley Inn. Weekly prize drawings including thousands in cash and free play. And 2 big grand prize giveaway events, each with a $15,000 cash winner guaranteed. Only at the Carson Valley Inn.
This is Nevada Newsmakers.
And back on Nevada Newsmakers, we continue our conversation with Assemblywoman Alexis Hansen, Republican of District 32. You really have been concerned about transparency throughout this entire legislative session. Explain more, if you would.
Well, and I believe in the process. I think we are so lucky to have the form of government that we do, and that our state government is mirrored on what the Founding Fathers set up on the federal level, and that we have the opportunity to do that on a state level. And my family's been here for 5 generations. The state of Nevada is important to me, and I believe that if we look over the past decades, we can see there was a little bit different approach. It was a lot of times what's best for Nevada, not DC dictating what's best for Nevada, right? And so as I look at this process of hearings, floor debate, we're governed by Mason's rules. Most states are, most state legislatures are. And so when I talk about my concerns about the hearings, are we properly vetting bills? Because if we're not properly vetting it, the only conclusion I think the public can come to is to say, wow, this looks like theater to me. Like, you bring a bill, you get maybe 1 or 2 questions, you don't allow the experts to have more time, or at least the same amount of time that the proponents of the bill did in their presentations. Maybe our chairman and leadership deciding what bills are going to be passed out into law, then why do we even need to have representation? So that's my concern, is what message are we sending to the public that we're here to vet these bills. Then when we get to the floor, the whole purpose, calling for the question, that as I mentioned with SCR 8 over on the Senate side, and they said it's not a debatable motion. The whole reason, and that's incorrect, most things are debatable because the minority is protected by Mason's rules. That's the only voice that the minority has, is to be able to have a process where they can have a voice. So when we are allowed to have floor debate, when we're allowed to ask questions, put things on the record and not be cut off, that is part of transparency. There's a lot of things we do in our caucuses, and we have discussions and arguments and all that, but the public doesn't see that.
Right.
We owe it to the public to do that on the floor and in committee hearings. And if we're going to use the argument that we're in a rush because we got to get this work done, then we don't drag the calendar out so that we only have 35 bills passed in the Assembly after April 22nd. Or we don't hear a governor's expansive crime bill, many, many pages, on May 28th when it was introduced on August 2nd.
Okay, so...
Or, I'm sorry, April 7th.
But if the shoe is on the other foot and the Republicans were in the majority as they were in 2014, would they not take advantage of the same things, the same rules, to be able to get their way?
Probably. Look, I have said this to my colleagues before. If I saw what happened during redistricting in those hearings, and Republicans were doing that to Democrats, and I was a Republican, I would be saying something. I'm going to call it what it is. When it's unfair, it's unfair. And I don't want Republicans to do it. I don't want the Democrats to do it, because we are, we protect the rights of the minority. That's what our whole criminal justice system, you are innocent till proven guilty. Our whole system is designed to preserve, we don't believe in mob rule or in majority rule. And so I will call out Republicans if they do that. Would they do it? I can say this, in 2015, they went right out of the chute and started hearing bills, passing bills. And so it would be interesting to compare to see how many bills were passed out under Republican leadership in 2015. But I didn't do that before I came here. But I do have the memory that they were addressing bills right away in February.
Do you think that the term limits has really, in a way, crippled a lot of the things that you're talking about?
Yes, and when I say that, people are going to, well, of course she says that because she's an elected official. I have to admit, before I was elected, or before I was more involved, I thought, yeah, I support term limits, but there's an institutional knowledge that you lose when you have this turnover, and I think we've seen that. And so, yes, I think the best term limits is the ballot box.
Also, the power base, changed dramatically to where the governor's office, the LCB, and the lobbyists have way more power than they had before.
Right. Although the lobbyists don't always have the opportunity to be heard fairly.
Apparently not.
Right, and that's a huge concern because there are industry experts that we need to hear from. And a lot of times you'll hear in the committee, well, take that offline. Ask that person offline. Well, guess what? This is a public hearing, and the public needs to hear what my question is so I can get that answer on the record, not offline, privately in a discussion with a lobbyist that represents the industries.
And that's where we have to leave it. Alexis Hansen, Thank you so much for doing this. We really appreciate it.
Thank you for having me.
And we'll be right back.
Welcome to the Ahern Boutique Hotel, where luxury and warmth come together in the heart of Las Vegas.
We take pride in offering a one-of-a-kind experience for both locals and tourists.
Join us for handcrafted cocktails and an unforgettable experience.
Joel's Chop House, the perfect place to savor views of the Las Vegas Strip.
Satisfy your cravings at the Ahern Chocolate Shop.
No smoking, no resort fees, and the parking is always free. The Ahern Luxury Boutique Hotel is your home away from home.
Imagine a magical garden that feeds Carson City's hungry and homeless, teaches our high school students agriculture, creates hanging floral displays to beautify downtown, and yet charges nothing. It's not magic. It's the Greenhouse Project. It's real, it's growing, and it needs your help. Go online to carsоncitygreenhouse.org so together we can grow it forward.
Each day, the Children's Advocacy Alliance partners with leaders, legislators, and families across Nevada to improve children's health, education, economic well-being, and safety. We recognize Nevada will be no better than the state of its children. Be a part of this change. Be a supporter of the Children's Advocacy Alliance. For more information, go to caanv.org.
You can always watch Nevada Newsmakers 24 hours a day at NevadaNewsmakers.com. Thanks for watching and listening.